Center for Human and Socio-Economic Rights is a non-governmental organization registered as a corporate body to defend, sustain, and promote the fundamental human and socio-economic rights of citizens and residents in any part of Nigeria as guaranteed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. CHSR collaborates with other organizations committed to an ideal Nigerian society founded on participatory democracy, equity, fairness, and rule of law. CHSR engage with states and non-state actors, institutions, and stakeholders in communities and neighborhoods towards ensuring fairness, equity, justice, and harmony with the view to curtailing threat to public peace and violent incidents. Right to peaceful protest. The right to peaceful protest is the common indicator of expression of freedom of expression under democracy. Right to peaceful protest is guaranteed under the Nigerian Constitution and as well as the regional and international convention to which Nigeria is a signatory. Section 40 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, guaranteed the right of every person to freely assemble and associate with other persons in exercise of freedom of expression. Throughout history, protests have been the driving force behind the most powerful social movements and against injustice and institutional abuses, as well as for demanding transparency and accountability from government. Citizens across the globe organize around issues of mutual interest and deploy peaceful protests to speak truth to power, thereby inspiring people for a hope in a better future. The struggle for democracy in Nigeria was one largely on account of the expression of the right of citizens to protest under successive military regimes. Even at the grave risk of physical harm and mental exhaustion under military rule, Nigeria remained unwavering and unbowed in the face of dictatorial tendencies of fascists who sought to deny the right to peaceful protest with the aid of draconian decrees. Those elected into various political offices in Nigeria today are direct beneficiaries of the product of the pains and anguish that became the price paid by those who champion the cause of democracy through peaceful protests. Interestingly, the last 2 decades under democracy has witnessed deliberate but futile attempt by enemies of democracy in position of authority to undermine the right to peaceful protest through the abuse of state power or undemocratic legislation. The latest attempt to criminalize protest by the National Assembly is indeed a reflection of the depth to which anti-democratic forces are perfecting the coup to return Nigeria to the era of dictatorship. With the huge controversies trailing the conduct of 2023 presidential election, the resurgence of the bill to criminalize protest is no doubt an indication of the desperation to curtail freedom of expression and right to demand just, accountable, and transparent governance by the organized platform of civil society and by extension, the generality of the citizenry. It no longer news that a bill sponsored by Emeka Chinedu Martins of the House of Representatives prescribing a 5-year jail term for unlawful protesters in Nigeria has been passed for the second reading by the lower chamber of the National Assembly. It is, however, important to note that this same bill was first presented to the House of Representatives in 2021 by the same Emeka Chinedu Martins, who interesting is a member of the opposition People's Democratic Party. The bill, among other obnoxious provisions, seeks to amend the Criminal Code Act (CAP) 38 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, supposedly, to preserve the sanctity of human life and property, and to provide specifically for the crime of mob action, prescribed punishment, and other matters. CHSR views the provision of the bill as deliberate attempt to criminalize peaceful protests and cow Nigerians into further submission under the guise of protecting public property. We view strongly that the right to peaceful protest, which is guaranteed by the Constitution, has been subjected to grievous attack by this vexatious bill and must therefore be vehemently rejected by all Nigerians. CHSR believe that the bill is born out of the desire to cow Nigerians into submission by those who detect resolve by Nigerians to organize around issues of interest and demand for genuine change through peaceful protests. It has therefore become pertinent to alert Nigerians of the desperation of retrogressive forces in the National Assembly who are determined to suppress protests and silence critical voices in the society. Without doubt, the bill is aimed at legalizing police brutality by further shrinking the civil space. The bill portends danger to democracy and therefore deemed retrogressive and reprehensibly by all genuine platforms of civil society. The aim of the bill is to intimidate citizens with threats of being held accountable for state-sponsored violence or orchestrated arson by those who seek to criminalize protests. It is imperative to assert that the right to peaceful protest intersects with citizen desire to be free from all form of oppression, including deprivation and marginalization. People subjected to inequality and discrimination on account of their age, identity, and means of survival are endangered, and therefore should be to allow to exercise right to peaceful protests. Democracy guarantees that everyone should be free to protest and without any form of inhibition or codified threats by ways of ambiguous legislation. CHSR therefore wishes to make it abundantly clear that the right to peaceful protest is not a privilege, but inalienable and guaranteed by domestic and international status. The right to protest must therefore not be subjected to any form of inhibition or deliberate abridgment through misleading legislation or amendment to extant law as presently the case with the progressive bill in the House of Representatives. Nigerians must be allowed to exercise their right to peaceful protest as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, African Charter on Human and People's Rights, as well as Universal Declaration on Human Rights. We hereby demand as follows. In the light of the worrisome development, CHSR make the following demands. 1. The National Assembly should stop further deliberation forthwith on the obnoxious bill to criminalize right to protest. National Assembly should henceforth abandon the route of undemocratic legislation which undermine the right of Nigerians. The National Assembly should demand greater sense of responsibility and due diligence from the security agencies, particularly the police, which must be held to account for the protections of public property during protests. Lastly, the Hollow Chamber should prioritize issues of security, electricity, education, health, corruption, empowerment, and fight against poverty, etc., which are the critical challenges Nigerians are facing at the moment. There's no need of saying they should remove the protest from the bill. It's to bring down the bill entirely. You know, like I said, and it was openly read, that they came with the pretense of reviewing section chapter 38 of the criminal code that has to do with mob action. There's a difference between mob action and protest. You cannot, people that mob cannot be translated as a protesters. Mob action is a criminal act, no doubt about it. Protest is a right, not a privilege. So there's no way, there's no two ways about it. And to sponsor a bill or to make a law, we have been saying it time without number. Okay. They have to weigh the law, the bill first. What is the implication, the negative impact and the positive impact on the people? So if the negative aspect is more greater than the positive, such a law should not see the light of the day. But because those we have in the National Assembly today are all opportunists, I say it with all sincerity, that those of us who are the trenches from the 1993 June 12 struggle till date, only those who have seen the fire of military attack on protesters can say it, what it takes for Nigeria to get this democracy we are all enjoying. Those of them are now benefiting.
Done his own press conference, others are still going. There was even the so-called criminalization of protest. We are still going to protest against it at the National Assembly, because it will not go well for even ordinary Nigerians on the street does not know the implication of this bill, because even the so-called Emeka is an opportunist, because he does not know how our democracy was entrenched. During the struggle for actualization of June 12, it was protests that produced all the ingredients that made us to have democracy that was still practicing as of now. So we rest assured that all other civil society and human rights groups, locally and internationally, are against this bill. We are determined to engage in, even just like you have said now, even his own contact is online. We are going to publish his own contact so that all that Nigerians can reach out to him and ask him what is the brain and what is the motive behind the bill he's sponsoring. Thank you.
Different organizations, you will see it soon as this thing is just to the public 2 weeks ago. First reading, second reading, gone before they make it public. So people can react to it. After that, it's made public. So expect more, and everybody is doing it. As we are now in Abuja, another one is going on. At Ogun State, another one is going on. So we are here in Lagos State. So Ogun State, I believe, another one will come up. Everybody.